All right, bet. What's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all to the Apartment 5B podcast. Book of Rhymes on tap for the day. I got my squad in effect with me today. I got my co-host Porsche. What's going on, miss?
How's it going, Kel?
Oh man, everything is good. I can't wait to chop it up about this book.
Yeah.
Got my cousin out of Brooklyn. What's going on, Joanna?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, no doubt, no doubt. I got my man Vince. What's going on, fam?
How y'all doing? What's happening?
Everything is everything. I got my man Tone from In the Dome. Glad we got more men up here tonight, man. I appreciate y'all, man. What's going on, Tone?
What's good, player? You see it right here. Let's get it.
No doubt, no doubt. We gotta let them know black men read books too. Men and Jews read books. Okay, we gotta get that in here. So today's book of the month, Born to Use Mics, breaking down Nas's Illmatic. This was Portia's pick, so I'm about to throw her the lob, see what she gonna do with the rock today. Portia, what's up, babe? Run the show.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I think we should start with talking about the album first. So what does everyone think about the album? Where does it rank? Favorite tracks off the album? Any other thoughts or anything? And then we'll go from there. So, Kill, why don't you start?
Illmatic definitely top 10 hip hop albums of all time. I'm not one of the few who think, one of the many who think it's the best album ever. I think it's an extremely dope album. Definitely top 10 for me. One of my favorite albums. I think it's one of the first albums, if I'm not mistaken, it's the second album to do this. The first one was the Youngsters, the Aftermath, to get together a group of producers to produce the album. You know, prior to this, kind of everybody had their crew. EPMD produced for their crew, PE produced for their crew. This was kind of like the first time on a huge level that was like, nah, I'm gonna go out and get X, Y, and Z producers to come in. And I think that's a great thing. I also think it was a blueprint to me that kind of messed up hip hop. Not that it's any of Illmatic's fault, but from there, then we got into everybody grabbing other people's sounds, and it's kind of where stuff started to get blurred. You know, my pastor would always talk about with married couples where you would talk about, do you split your finances or not? He's like, look, once you make some half and half, which is a Baltimore term for half lemonade, half iced tea. Once you pour that iced tea and lemonade into the jug, you can't get the lemonade back out. It's in there. You know what I mean? So again, no fault to Illmatic, but I think after people saw that blueprint, it was like, oh, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go get 2 Pharrells and 2 Just Blazes. It was almost like they started ordering food because, let me get 2 Kanyes, 1 Just Blaze, let me get Alchemist, and get throwing a Dr. Dre beat for the hell of it to get down on the West Coast. But let me digress. But yeah, Illmatic, definitely one of my favorite albums of all time.
Favorite tracks?
Probably New York State of Mind. Like to this day, whenever I hear New York State of Mind, even when they just used it for the Heineken commercial, it just still sounds perfect. It just doesn't sound dated at all. It sounds great. It just to me sets the tone and the mood for the whole album.
Nice. Joanna, what about you?
Oh, of course, Illmatic is everything. I mean, I remember where I was when this album dropped, and it was something about the way it was arranged that made it unique in terms of the tracks seem that they're following a linear sort of story in a way, the way that he arranged these tracks. And this is one of the things, we'll get into that a little bit later, but what it was he was doing, I didn't really fully understand it, like at the time, until you kept listening to it and listening to it and listening to it, and you're just like, damn, this has not been done before, this sort of thought going into producing the album. I would have to say New York State of Mind is one of my favorite, but then New York State of Mind, It's Yours. And I really like It's Yours, just to me, T La Rock's It's Yours It's Yours. But I like what he did with it. I like what he did with it. And I like the message that was behind it back then. And to what you're saying, Kill, in terms of the whole game changing here, there seems to have been that shift. This is right, the shift into the gangster thing kind of happened right around in here. And a lot of the stuff that Nas is talking about, this is where, for me anyway, it started to kind of fall apart after this. Like, you know what I mean? We got the Lukes and everybody else coming out with stuff. So, you know, definitely one of my favorites. And to listen to it again, because I listened to the whole thing for this, I hadn't listened to it in years. It still made me feel the same way. So
definitely, it ages well. That's for sure. Yeah. Vince, what about you?
I would tend to agree with like what Kill said. It's definitely a classic album. It's not like the classic because there's far too many others that I would have in that list. So that's how I feel about it as far as where it would rank. And then I always like One Love. I thought that was one of the standout tracks on there. So I would go with One Love for as what I really like on that one.
Nice. Tone, what about you?
For me, I go back to like 1992. I had that Zebrahead soundtrack to tape. So when I heard Halftime, I was like, yo, whoever this kid is dope. And then somebody reminded me, like, oh, that's the kid from Live at the Barbecue, Back to the Grill again and all that shit. I'm like, okay, well, whoever, he's nice. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, during that time, wait for that album, hearing Illmatic for the first time, it was kind of a case study. I'm a nerd. I'm a history nerd. So for me, it was a case study on Black culture and housing discrimination, systematic racism, and hearing how young kids and Black families in the ghetto were living, especially in the inner city. So even though we was dealing with some of the same stuff down here, I'm in North Carolina, I kind of felt the lyrics very vivid. I rank Illmatic top 5 of all time because when I listen to that now and I listen to other albums that I thought were classic, or I feel like pushing the classic, his imagery for hip hop and for kids growing up is just second to not many. So I put it in the same light as It Take a Nation a Million with Public Enemy, The Chronic by Dr. Dre, A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders for me is like my favorite rap album, and Ready to Die by Biggie. So those kind of round out my 4 or 5 favorite albums. But Illmatic is just a testament of perfect MCing almost. As far as my favorite tracks on there, I'll go with The World Is Yours. That whatever Pete Rock did with that was absolutely amazing. One Love, and I'm gonna get into One Love at some point in the show. Probably my second favorite song on the album. So yeah, man, monumental album. I don't know if there's such thing as a best hip hop album of all time, but when you mention the great albums, you cannot mention a list and not have Illmatic on it.
That's right.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I have another question that just popped in my mind. Did reading the book change, or did it? So you guys have your favorite tracks off of the album, like audio wise. Reading the book, did it change anything, or did it like make you like that particular track more? Did you not like it? Did you like the way they described or sort of provided insight for your particular favorite song? What are your thoughts on that? Let's start with Kill.
All right. First of all, I'm trying to hold this to the end because I don't want to give out too much.
Okay.
Did this book do anything? It didn't. I'll answer the question. It did not. It did not.
Okay.
This book was a very hard read for me. You know what I mean? It was a very hard read for me. My wife calls me Shallow Hal because there are times I can be very shallow. I mean, if y'all have ever seen the movie, I'm shallow. I could be shallow. I'm shallow. And I don't mean to offend anybody out there who this may offend. When I got this book, Porsche, when you sent me this book, I was like, I love you, Porsche, because Michael Eric Dyson.
I appreciate all of you.
Dude is like I've got so many thoughts about this book, so many thoughts about this. Oh man, I don't even know where to start. You know what? I don't want to belabor the show. Go to somebody else. I don't want to.
Okay, Joanna, what about you?
Too much right now.
I think we must be somewhat on the same wavelength here, because To answer the short answer is no. It did not change anything for me in terms of the book. There was one chapter that I was able to really get into, and that's chapter number 7, ironically.
Right.
So number 7. But yeah, but no, it did not impact how I feel about the album or the songs on it.
Okay, cool. Vince, what about you?
Yeah, it was hard to read through, mainly because to me, it seemed like it was like a deaf poetry slam or something.
There you go, good brother. There you go. Preach. Where's the offering plate? Where's the offering plate at? Listen, I got some money for you. I got 10% for you right now, brother. Preach.
We reading it, the words being used within each one of these chapters made me think, well, damn, did I listen to the same album? It didn't come to me like that. And look, all due respect to all of the writers, you know what I mean? I'm not a writer, so I'm not gonna, pretend to be one, but I don't know, man. Just the way it was, it's just like just the words used. My favorite parts were actually the parts where they talked to Bobbito. When they talk to Bobbito,
let's get to that. We gotta get to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah,
let's get to that.
Don't get too much into the book.
Yeah, let's all go. But I feel you. Preach, good brother. Preach.
All right, well, let me give you my favorite. Let me give you my favorite part of the book, and my favorite part was the part that talked about Nas and his relationship to his dad. I think that was my favorite part, other than the parts that I really, really liked, which were the parts that Bobbito was in on. So that's it for my little.
All right, Tone. What about you?
What's funny is chapter 7, that One Love, Two Brothers, Three Verses. That was the one, and I read this book years ago, and I went back and looked at it again the other day. I might remember the book perfectly, but Michael Dyson talked about an interview he did with Soledad O'Brien and about his brother being incarcerated, and he kind of dissected One Love. So what I did, of course, I've been riding the Illmatic. I ride to it a lot. I went back and listened to One Love this morning, and I got what Mike Eric Dyson was doing. One Love is so vivid because me personally, I have an uncle that served 39 years in prison. You know what I'm saying? I have several cousins who was really into dope growing up in the 80s who did a lot of prison time. I've been to prison plenty of times. I've been in the street with my family. So I get One Love. I get where he was going when he was kind of talking about just the systematic racism, like I said earlier, the housing discrimination, building the projects up, government assistance, the drugs, the 80s drug laws. You know what I'm saying? So when he dissected a lot of information, which he can do sometimes, and at times Dyson can't overdo it, and at the same time try to be hip and hip hop with it, and you kind of lose him in the jargon and rhetoric. But if you can see through some of that, which I can because I am a writer and I've written several books, et cetera, I kind of try to look into, I get what they were trying to do with Born to Use Mics. They were trying to be descriptive but hip at the same time, which means that deaf poetry type vibe is why it can be a little irritating trying to dissect it a little bit. And I felt that, but I like the way Dyson at least try to humanize One Love and humanize his brother, and just about what a lot of young black people, and especially young black men, go through because of this damn system. And we know how the 80s drug laws did. You put an 18-year-old kid in prison till he's fucking 33, and you've crushed his life. When there's other kids who didn't look like us got 2 years of probation.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So just let me give you an example about this verse. When Nas said, see, the streets had me stressed something terrible. Fucking with them corners had a nigga up in Bellevue or HDM. Hit with numbers from 8 to 10. The future in the maximum state pen is grim. I'm like, wow. Like, think about what he's saying. 8 to 10. I'm 18. I get out. I'm 28. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the stuff that I pulled from that chapter, and it hit home for me, and it hit home to a lot of young black people and black men in general who were going through a lot of stuff in the city and just in the game overall. So yeah, that would be the chapter. I really enjoyed that chapter outside of some of the other ones. Yeah.
I'd just like to piggyback on that and say that the reason why this chapter stands out for me is because it is humanized. It is a story that we can relate to. It is not just spitting off the top of your, rhetoric, talking, deaf poetry jam sort of vibe. He's relating the music to something that's happened to him personally that most of us can relate to. And that is why that chapter I was able to read the entire thing, which I can't say in full disclosure that I did for this book.
Okay, fair. That's fair. Okay, so like,
hold tight, Porch. What about you?
Okay, well, for me, I treated this whole thing as a supplementary material. Like if you're in school and you have a project, which would be Illmatic the album, and then this book would have been like the supplementary material for it. So for me, I kind of read it as like, oh, these are like these people's opinions on it. It didn't, much like the rest of you, like it didn't change anything for me in terms of my favorite tracks on the album. And my favorite track on Illmatic is It Ain't Hard to Tell. So, and that was my favorite chapter in the book as well. And then there were some areas where I was sort of like, oh, I think it was Vince that said it. Like, was I listening to the same album that these guys were listening to? Like, I know they come at it with a more like scholarly angle. These guys are all like PhD holders or master's holders. They're academics. So they kind of come at it with a different angle. And I like that about it, kind of. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. But I just want to know from the group, like, what is everyone's first impression of the book? Besides, I guess, knowing that, I don't know. I know everybody's got issues with some of the writers, and that was like a big thing. But what is the first impression of the book? Like reading maybe the introduction or the foreword. Kill, what about you?
My first impression of the book was this is going to be a long fucking book to read. What I meant about the shallow now part was, and again, I don't mean to offend anybody who had, I have a long name myself, but when I saw like one of the people was Sohail Dulatza, or Amani, certain names I already kind of have to know. I know how you're going to write. And it's like Vince said, we're going to get real deaf poetry on it out here. And I think the problem with me and hip hop is one thing that I've learned throughout time is that I've always said, you know what, as Black folk, we have to learn how to document our own culture. There are too many times that white folk, no offense to anybody white, because hell, they getting the money, they getting the backing to be able to do it. But I always said, why is Remy from Higher Learning making this Tribe Called Quest movie? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Why is that? There was a, God bless the dead, MCA from the Beastie Boys. He did this awesome documentary called Gunning for the Number One Spot, where he documented like the 12 dopest high school players in America going to Rucker Park. And I'm just like, why is MCA doing this? You know what I mean? Is it because they can get the backing and we can't? I now, after reading this book, understand that it's not just about Black folk documenting our culture. I need hip hop heads to document our culture, because I don't feel like anybody in this book is a true to God living hip hop head. You know what I mean? And that each one of these people are like known as hip hop heads, though, right? Just to clarify that. But that's the problem. Yes, I think it starts with, and Tone said it, and I'm always writing down what people say. He said, if you could get through the jargon and the rhetoric, you know what I mean? And that's true, but as myself being a writer too, I don't want anybody to have to get through the jargon and the rhetoric. Right. You know what I mean? I don't want anybody. It's almost like looking at an album. It's like 12 songs. Like, well, if you get through the bullshit, there's some good shit there. It's like, no, I don't want the bullshit there. Like, I don't want to have to get through that. Like, the point of putting on an album is being able to put play and sit back and enjoy it. The point of reading a good book is being able to be like, oh my God, I can't put this down. I'm skipping pages. I'm skipping paragraphs. I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? And then, like you said, PhD holders. Again, I'm not saying anybody who has a PhD cannot be a hip hop head. I'm just saying, when I started reading this, it's like Vince said, hold on, I want to highlight a chapter real quick. I can tell you right here, it threw me for the loop when it said, It was Basquiat smoking a blunt with Marcus Garvey, Rakim building in a cipher, and Bunny Lee and Marley Marl fucking with the S12. Gary Tubman and MC Light sharing secrets when Illmatic was released. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, my G? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? Even I mean, when we go, here's the wild part. Here's the wild part. We're talking about, we're going to start off with the Genesis. The Genesis, if I'm not mistaken, is like a minute, right? It's just wild style.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild style. How did this author take 20 pages to explain a 1 minute song? Like, so how do you, this was like when I would be in college and it'd be like, yo, you need to make a paper that's 20 pages. And I really only got 5 and I got the bullshit for the next 15. I felt like that was every chapter of how can I keep this going? It after a while, it felt like Batman. And what I mean by Batman is that if you don't know Batman's origin by now, kill yourself. Like every time I go see a Batman movie or Superman versus Batman or the Justice League, I got to sit through Bruce Wayne's family getting killed. We fucking know. Like I felt like every chapter was, this is Nas's background. And I'm like, my nigga. And I don't blame the writers. I blame whoever the editor was. Because to me, this is bad editing. Because I felt like I'm reading a chapter about the world is yours, and we talking about Reagan, we going into Nixon, we going into global economy, we going into we talking about, I swear everybody in this book wrote about Nas's Pop, and Nas Pop only on one song. I felt like everybody was like, this is my take on Illmatic, and it just so happens I got this one track. Which if I'm the editor, I'm going back like, nah, take this shit back, because you're supposed to be writing about New York State of mind. I don't want to hear about bridging the gap. I don't want to hear about nothing else but this chapter. And it's just like Vince said, it was that poetry jam, and I get it. I'm not that deep. I'm not in the spoken word like that. I'm just not deep. So I don't need to hear about Marcus Garvey smoking a blunt with Marley Marl. Like I don't even see the correlation of the two, but you just want to show me how fucking deep you are that you know Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? And it's also one of my pet peeves as being a writer is that when people always want to try to tell you what the sample was. I will give one great example right here. This is written by Solo Dalla. I don't even fucking know. But it's also the conceptually, because the opening to Bird's Flight Time begins with the sound of an airplane taking off, and through we don't hear part of the record that has been sampled. The absence of Illmatic's second track provides a kind of haunting beginning to New York State of Mind, because without that sound of the plane taking off, Premier uses a flight time almost implies an inability to flee from the young Nasir and serving to create a heightened sense of claustrophobia. Just as the boating bass line sampled from Joe Chambers' Mind Rain builds in the airy piano stab, signal nods, and impeding soliloquy of chaos straight out the fucking dungeons of rap throughout the song. Not come.
We should be snapping.
That's what I was doing. I was
come on, y'all. Y'all gotta be kidding. Who wrote this shit? Who edited?
Let me say something real quick.
This shit. Go ahead, Tom.
I think, and for Portia, I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where, all right, so this book would have won if the writers weren't trying to be complicated for the sake of being complicated, right? So some of the rhetoric could have been taken the hell out. You don't need some of the correlations because it's not necessary. But I think it goes back to what Kill was saying. So a lot of times in our culture, a lot of non-hip hop heads got the biggest voices, right? So they have the stage to spit a bunch of bullshit when you don't need it. So it's kind of like, okay, we could have dumbed this down some to show appreciation for the album without showing, okay, I am a scholar. I did go to school for 25 years, and I love hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So it's over the top at times, and there's a lot of chapters in here very, unnecessary. There's a lot of pages you can take out this damn book. We don't even need it. You know what I'm saying? Like Hill said, Genesis should have been one page. I can talk about Genesis in a paragraph and I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Now, New York State of Mind can be longer because that's the essence of the album. And for this kid in New York, we can take it there. Or the world is yours, or you don't even need a chapter, for example, on Represent. because he just one time for your mind because he just fucking freestyle. You know what I'm saying? So
Tone,
that's not even necessary.
Can I say something real quick, Tone?
No doubt.
From One Time for Your Mind, which is written by Kyra Gaunt, I lost this because here's her piece. Years ago, I read a chapter of Eve Sedgwick, a queer study scholar, that had me question the limits of my own available thinking about sexuality, despite my expertise in the study of gender and the body. Her writing left me as a professor of hip hop music with a provocative thought. What would help students interested in hip hop question the limits of their own thinking about misogyny? Am I saying it right? Misogyny?
Yes.
And the impact of women and men. Hip hop discourse rarely steps beyond cliched conversations about misogyny. So I created a list of axioms, ideas of statements that people accept as self-evident truth. What does this have to do with One Time for Your Mind?
Nothing, and that's my whole point.
Yeah, so that's
the chapter I didn't like. That's
the chapter I had an issue with as well, because this is the chapter that like there's a lot of claims made that actually is sort of like I was reading this and I actually had to go back. I read this chapter a couple times and I was like, really? Like she took it there? Because she talks a lot about like hip hop videos and women dancing in hip hop videos. And she talks about women, how they're portrayed in hip hop. And the whole time I'm thinking like, as a fan of hip hop, like as a female fan of hip hop, and Joanna can add to this as well. As a female fan of hip hop, this is not the genre I go to for gender empowerment for me personally as a female. I don't go there to be like, I don't listen to hip hop to be like, oh, and now I'm going to get inspired as a woman. That's not what hip hop has ever been. It's not what hip hop has ever claimed to be. And even the females that rap, aside from a few, they're in that same mode. They're also sexualizing themselves and they're also like, so it's not helping anything. So when I read that particular chapter, I was like, I cannot believe this woman took it there, because and she sort of like teeter-totters back and forth. Like she says a lot of things against it, and then she sort of goes and says things like to sort of defend it. And so the whole time I'm thinking like, I'd like to sit down with you and have a conversation about this, because I don't know. But anyways, Joanna, what do you think about that?
You know what was crazy in that chapter? She made a reference to, I want to say it was the One Mic song.
Yes.
The slow motion that was used in the video, and how it's sexualized the young girls. And I was just like, I don't know about that, sis. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think people were looking at them like that. I mean, it's just in general a part of the total overdoing of analysis in this entire book. She fit right in there. And for me, the references that stood out were the references to film, because I study movies. So like they made a reference to the Battle of Algiers in one of the chapters.
If they talked about the Battle of Algiers one more fucking time, I was like, the name of the book should be Battle of Algiers. I mean, it was mad people kept talking about the Battle of Algiers. I'm like,
I'm dying.
I mean, if one more writer, and I'm like, did y'all not know he's like what? Yeah, Joe, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was about to name the book the Battle of Algiers.
And I just couldn't see this correlation. I mean, if I tried real hard, I could. But like the Battle of Algiers, the people are getting killed. And what is going on here? I was just like, I don't know. And of course, Scarface is just all over this book. So I don't know. I think there's something to be said about trying to write for your audience also. And to me, that this demonstrates a lot of hubris. Okay, there's a lot of hubris running around in this book, because you clearly don't want the people who love the genre to read it. That's you know what I mean? Like it's too much bullshit in it.
It's almost like it's like Tone said, it's wanting to be deep when you don't have to be deep. Because if you really sit back and when you sit back, and I like listening to people, because that lets me know if you bullshit or not. But it's like when Nas' Life is Good came out, a lot of people like, oh my God, this is just like Marvin's Here, My Dear. And when people would say that, it just let me know you really didn't know what the fuck you was talking about, because Marvin's Here, My Dear is nothing like Life is Good. Like Life is Good speaks on Nas's divorce in one song, and he talks about Khalees in a verse in one song. That's not Marvin's life. That's not Marvin's Here, My Dear. You know what I mean? That's literally Marvin's Here, My Dear was an entire album about him and his wife going through a divorce. Since the court said he had to give her all the money from this album, he was making this whole album there. You see what I'm saying?
Damn diary.
What do you say?
Here, My Dear was like a love letter / a damn diary.
Right.
His damn marriage and divorce. And it was very intricate and very detailed. And Nas only touched on that really on about 2 or 3 songs at tops, because the rest of Life is Good was shit like Back When. He talking about hip hop and Queens.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you wouldn't understand on some street shit you know, whatever. So, you know, trust. You know, so yeah, I agree, Kim.
But that's what I mean. Because what I mean is that when people say that, it's almost like you 9 times out of 10, because Marvin's Here, My Dear is not a popular album.
Not at all.
When people tell me they've listened to Hear My Dear and really we could conversate, it lets me know you are really on some music on a deeper level than what my homegirl Maya used to say, like, you know, you're a quilt maker. You just know the hits. You don't know the B-sides and the other stuff. But I'm saying that to say is that people would try to say that to make themselves sound deep. Like, look, y'all, I know more about hip hop. I know about Marvin. You know what I mean? Or I know more about hip hop. I know about jazz. I know about Roy Ayers. I'm hip. Like, and
you know what, Kim?
What's up?
You know, that used to piss me off when I heard that, because for me personally, Marvin Gaye is my favorite artist ever. And I know about all of his music. And Hear My Dear is a brilliant album, double album actually, that I own. So when I used to hear people kind of dumbing his music down, because that's my favorite MC. But Life is Good is not Hear My Dear. So again, that goes to what this book is about. You have so-called intellectuals who overdid it, add way too much unnecessary jargon in the book, and it's unfortunate because they missed the point. You know what I'm saying? You should want everyone who loves hip hop to have embraced this book and embraced everything that's in it. And instead, you alienated all of these people that love Illmatic, that love Nas, that love 90s hip hop. And this book really, it was a hard read, like trying to read a fucking Dan Brown book. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this? I'm trying to decipher some of the jargon, and it's like, even with Mark Lamont Hill, one of my frat brothers, brilliant brother, Philly guy, I think. I like him a lot. He's a good dude or whatever. My man just kicked it with him last week at his coffee shop and what have you. He loves hip hop, and he did a decent job right here. But I still felt like he still had to show I'm an intellect as well. When he could have dumbed some of this down, so we could really appreciate the message he was trying to convey, man. So he's talking about Matrix and all kind of a dumb shit, and it's not necessary.
To me, it's not even about dumbing it down. It's just about make it digestible
for somebody. Right.
You can write in a manner that you are still an intellectual, but still reach your reader. You don't have to do all that extra stuff. In my opinion.
I agree. That's what I mean.
That's the thing that I don't get. You know, you didn't have to go through all the Battle of Algiers. You didn't have to go through all of these other references. You didn't have to go through all those references, because guess what? Most of the people who picked up this book, me included, I'm a fan. I listened to the album. I know what the album's about. I followed Nas's career. But when I read this, it's like I said, how can when I'm reading it, it just didn't. It made me like, well, goddamn, this album sounds fucking stupid. The album sounds stupid. They make the album sound stupid, and it's not.
Yeah. I feel like they just smoked weed. They just smoke. That's what happens when you smoke. This is what you write when you smoke. Okay, you think you are talking something that everybody knows what you're talking about, and you just talking and nobody knows. This is a after blunt book.
Oh man, yo, I tell you
what I'm talking about. People who get high and they start pontificating and talking all this
and rambling some dumb shit.
Right. That's what this is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's funny. I was reading in the It's Yours chapter by James Peterson. He says, but immediately following the It's Yours sample, Pete Rock begins the hook by singing the question, whose world is this? To which Nas immediately replies, the world is yours. The world is yours. Then replies, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Followed by a return to the Tila Rock sample, it's yours, before the sequence repeats itself. You can only appreciate this audio collage by listening to it repeatedly. Nas, the world is. I mean, like, yo, did this nigga really just sit here and tell me what the chorus was
on the song, right?
Like, my nigga, am I deaf? Like, did this dude really just say? And then
broke it down for you.
And then Nas replied. And then a little scriggy scratch comes in. You know, the wild part is that I think, something that you said, Porsche, that these people are looked at as hip-hop scholars. I think the hard part is that a lot of times these people looked at hip-hop scholars because of what their degree status is.
Yeah.
So when
I agree.
needs to go grab somebody to talk about hip-hop, they're not going to go grab Conway. They're not going to go grab, me. They're going to grab, Michael Eric Dyson because he has a PhD and he's read every article of Vibe magazine. And, so that's why they're looked at as that. But then when you get hip hop heads together and you say, like, this made me respect, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tone, I think it's Duke where Ninth teaches at, where he teaches.
Right. Yes, it is.
It makes me respect Duke as much as I fucking hate Duke for the fact that they hired a hip hop head to teach hip hop. Because if these are the people who are teaching hip hop, I probably fail your class. I would probably fail your class if these are the hip hop instructors that are teaching hip hop in our universities. You know what I mean? And like I said, it will realize.
Kill, you'd have dropped the class. You'd have dropped.
I would have dropped it. Now, how I'm going to drop a hip hop class? You know what I mean? How that? But it just made me realize, like I said, it's now not just that black folk have to document our culture. Hip hop heads need to document our culture.
And
it's not about hip hop. It's not just about hip hop. This is about if you are a country music person, you need to be documenting country music. Not me. I don't want to document it. If you're a jazz head, you need to be, documenting your country. Just because I got a PhD and I got Miles's Bitches Brew don't mean I need to document jazz. So I think that's the part that killed me with this.
Well, y'all see this graph, the chapter with the graph in it?
Yo, the graph. Oh, Joe, don't get started on the graph.
Let me tell you what I did.
Oh my God. I threw the book down. With
put that up to put that up to the camera. Put the graph up. This dude is really breaking down the formal plan of Life's a Bitch. You know what I thought about at that instant moment? Don't may not be wireheads like me, but there was this time when Stringer was having one of his meetings, and his man was taking notes. He said, "Are you taking notes on a goddamn criminal conspiracy? Like, is this dude really sitting here writing out the plan for Life's a Bitch? Like, yo, dog, come on, stop it.
One of the few parts of the book I did like was that I'm on page 213, The Second Coming. And it has their own words from Nas and Lawrence Professor and MC Search and, Q-Tip and LES. And these guys are talking about their, just putting Illmatic together. And
that's what the book should have been about. That's what the book should have been about.
Exactly, my man. That's what the book should have been about. Like Kill said, some of these individuals on here, they got the spot because of their credentials and their academic background. But for real, you take out one of those guys and let Biz Markie do a damn chapter. Let Akinelli do a chapter. Right. I want some heads to be talking to me like Keo talking about. I want to hear it authentic. You know what I'm saying? Let Jungle even talk about it. You know what I'm saying? He was around his big brother. You feel me? So let me hear from the guys, from Queens who lived it, who's around Nas doing Illmatic, some of the producers, maybe even some of the people who tried to be producers didn't make the cut. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case may be. Like I said, I think what they was trying to do, like, this book would be meant for a classroom, I guess, to a degree. But even with that, you would still lose some of the students. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I think they were trying to make some kind of academic volume 1 Nas Illmatic, whatever, for a curriculum, but they went too far. And it's like a chemistry book in school. They're like, man, I'm not even gonna use half of this shit when I graduate. You know what I'm saying? But I think their intentions was that, and they missed the mark, man.
Yep.
I think one way that I looked at it was that I think a lot of this was we know Illmatic's, like where Illmatic is sort of renowned in the hip hop community. Like everyone sees it as this like pioneer album. It's unlike anything else. And I feel like with all of these, and I call it reaching, like they were reaching for the stars with some of their, claims and stuff, but I feel like they tried really hard to establish the rank and sort of justify the rank that Illmatic had. And I think that might be the angle that they were looking at. Like, okay, Illmatic's the classic album in hip hop. It's the greatest album. I'm sure they all think it's the greatest album in hip hop. So let's write to justify why it's the greatest album of all time ever. So, and I feel like that's what they did, because that's how you get 20 pages out of Genesis. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how you do it. So I don't know.
I think you hit it right on the head, because I do believe, because Common did the first little forward. And if you know, Common has always said that Nas is his favorite MC, the best MC, and Illmatic is the best album. So it goes back to Dyson also he did an interview with Nas, I think, at Georgetown or something, because I think Ninth was spinning. They did like a whole hour and a half about Illmatic with Michael Eric Dyson. So you're right. I think everyone in here think it's the best. So it's like you overdid it to justify why it's better than the Chronic or 36 Chambers or
anything.
It takes a Nation of Million, because most people even outside of hip hop culture consider the Nation of Million to be the greatest hip hop album, and that's one of the greatest albums of all time in music. Right. So to put this album in this same conversation, I think you're right. They had to overdo it. And unfortunately, when I first went to the bookstore and got it years ago, I saw the cover and I was like, oh, I can't wait to take this shit home and read it. So I was excited to get it. And once I started going through it, I'm like, man, why is it this damn hard to get through these pages, man? And I think that was, I don't know, man. I just think, Portia, you hit it right on the top. Let me ask everybody a question real quick. I'll take real quick. What's the best beat on Illmatic for each one of you guys? I'm just curious, real quick. Your favorite beat on Illmatic. Kill, you're a producer, man. Which one to you is the one you'd be like, man, the instrumental dope as hell, dog?
Probably New York State of Mind. New York State of Mind. What about you, Vince?
I'm going to stick with what I said originally. I'm going to say One Love, but New York State of Mind would definitely be another one that I would mention.
All right. What about you, Porsche?
Mine, New York State of Mind or It Ain't Hard to Tell. That's my favorite track on the album anyways, for all of those reasons. So.
All right.
I feel like I like the beat for Ain't Hard to Tell more than New York State of Mind. So I'm going to go with the beat of It Ain't Hard to Tell.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Tom?
Man, I'm gonna go with The World Is Yours, man. I remember the other day I was listening to the samples and what have you. I think that piano was some shit from like 1920 or something. PR was digging in the crates real hard for that sample, man. But I just love it. Feels so good to hear That World Is Yours, man. Like, so I'm gonna go with That World Is Yours, man.
Let me add something to that right quick. The scratches P Rock laid on that are some of the best on record.
Yeah, I agree.
Anytime I hear that, especially if I'm listening to the instrumental, when he them scratches in there, it is so crisp and clean.
Yes, it is.
That, that's what I enjoy the most about that particular track.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's dope. Porsche. No, go ahead. You got Porsche.
No, I was going to ask another question. I was going to say, so we've kind of critiqued the book a lot. Do we have what are some positives that you got out of it? If there are any. If there aren't any, that's totally fine too. But was there anything that you did like about it, Vince?
Yeah, I like the chapter that talked about Nas in a relationship to his dad. I mean, having a dad who came up as a musician, a very well-respected musician. I think it was great the way they came together. They made a record together. His dad played on his first album. I thought that was like the best story of the stories.
Yeah. What about you, Tone?
I'm gonna still go back to that chapter 7 with One Love again because, again, I am a history nerd, so I did appreciate Dyson talking about his brother and a lot of things that might have led up to maybe his brother even making a decision to sell dope and do crime. And as far as like just breaking down One Love, and I love that track. And again, because I feel it on a personal level, it made sense and it resonated with me. So I think that chapter was probably my favorite. Also, like what my man said, as far as like dealing with his dad and etc. Those are some highlights. I will say this: I'm glad the book was written. I wish it was written a little different. But anytime a landmark piece of hip hop is put in literature, I can at least appreciate the attempt, if nothing else.
Yep.
Sometimes a home run is hit. Sometimes you miss the mark. Unfortunately, I think Born to Use Mics missed the mark. But the intention, I think, was good, even though maybe some of these so-called scholars had some other agendas as well, because as they write the way they write, they have other books and other projects they're working on. So there's always an agenda with your style of writing. I know that much as a writer. But I do think and I do appreciate anytime a book on hip hop is written, I can walk into a Barnes and Noble or something like that, and I say, hey, in this music section, it's not just shit on Axl Rose or the Beatles and shit. I can look at this book and it's about Eminem, about Redman, about Mace, DMX or whatever. I appreciate the fact that it's written, and I hope more books continue to be written.
I agree. Joanna, what about you? I know you kind of complained that it was tough. It was you didn't love it, so
advice and trying to do the chapters thing,
bounce around, and
it worked a little bit better for me. But I would say one of the things that I learned about the book from the book that I appreciated is I learned that Nas wanted to be a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which chapter that was in, and that explained for me a lot of his imagery and descriptive voice when he's writing his lyrics.
Yep.
And visualizing what he's saying, you can visualize and see literally everything playing out. And especially for me with One Love, I mean, just listening to it and reading it again, I really was glad to reconnect with that song after reading that, because it did shed another light on it for me, to a certain degree.
Nice. Kill, what about you? Anything you liked about it? You go so hard on this book, so I just want to know.
Nah, there's nothing I like. To be honest with you, the crazy thing, and I mean, I actually got it written here in my notes, like this should have been the whole book, because I'm pissed that I had to wait to page 213 to get to what Tone and Vince were talking about as far as the the interviews with the people who I think mattered. You know what I mean? It's like doing a documentary on somebody and not having anybody of that person's crew or a part of their crew or a part of what helped make this record around. It's like you just pick 5 random people. I don't know if y'all watch Unsung on TV1, but they always have the same people on every episode talking about somebody. I'm like, my nigga, you don't even know you on every episode. Like, yo, you was talking about Tony Terry last week. Now you talking about Brand Nubians. Like, y'all don't even take the time to y'all just get whoever in the studio at the time to just be like, yeah, come on in, and talk. Like, get people around. I will say this, the thing that I did like, and it's shocking to me, that my favorite chapter is Michael Eric Dyson's. That goes to show you just how fucked up this book is. My favorite chapter is Michael Eric Dyson. And the thing that shocked me the most was that it took, because I said, going into this chapter, I said, I'm going to see how long it takes my man to bring up Tupac. And it took him 3 pages. I thought he was going to start the book off with, when Brother Pop was here, Brother Pop would say that, it's so mad, because if y'all know Michael Jerome, he loves some Tupac. I'm sure he may have Pac's ashes in his fucking room right now when he does his writing. And I was shocked that it took him 3 whole pages to bring up you could ask Michael Eric Dyson, what do you want for dinner tonight? Well, Brother Pac loved him some beef patties, so I'm going to just order them. Like, this man is in love with Pac. So that's my biggest shock. So the only positive thing I have to take away is just the stuff that was at the end. I felt like a kid when you would, have to dig to the bottom of the cereal box to get to the prize. Like, you ain't even really want the cereal, but the prize looks so good.
Are you talking about the remixes?
Cereal. What do you say?
Are you talking about the remixes section?
Yeah, the remixes section.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, do you want to just maybe explain just for
yeah.
the sake of explaining?
So basically, at the end of the book on page 2002, I felt like 2,000 pages. On page 213, they have this remix section where they have an interview with Bob. They have a Bobbito piece from Rap Pages in '94 when he's interviewing Nas. They have this piece from The Source where they're talking to Nas, Large Professor, Primo, all the people who made the album. And things like that. And I kind of felt like, and I wrote down here, you made me read 213 pages to get the good shit. Like back in the day, and Joanna, y'all and Vince, you probably know what I'm talking about. Nowadays, you don't even get prizes, but you know, they used to sometimes put prizes on the outside of the box. So you could take the plastic out and the prize would be, no, I'm talking old school days where you had to eat the whole box. To get to the bottom, so you be shot
opening the box from the bottom to get
right, exactly. Like so you see something like that's an ill prize, and you don't even like the cereal, and you get your mother to buy it just for that prize. That's what this book was to me. It was eating a bad box of cereal to finally get to the prize at the end. So I mean, I feel what Tone is saying, and looking at it from his standpoint. I'm there kind of, you know, that, yes, it is always good to see a book or a document on hip hop. I think it just bothers me when we put the wrong people in charge of it. And again, the thing that, and again, like I said in the early stages, I blame this on whoever was the editor of this book because it was his job almost as the executive producer. I always tell people if it wasn't for RZA, Wu-Tang would have been 9 dudes rapping on every damn song, but it was RZA saying, no, yo, Ghost and Ray, you got a chemistry in. Meth, you do the hooking. He was like the coach. I felt like the editor should have read this and been like, nah, y'all got to go back to the drawing board. Like, this is supposed to be about One Time for Your Mind, and you talk, and correct me if I'm wrong, it does not say something disrespectful about women on One Time for Your Mind. Like, that's what kind of threw me because it felt like she was writing this chapter about One Time for Your Mind, like about maybe like I don't know, a Rex Effects video or something like that. Like,
yeah, I didn't get that.
Right.
I don't know that whole chapter confused me.
Right, and to me, that's the editor's job. That's the editor's job to say, what is this? Like, this is supposed to be about One Time for Your Mind. Like, what are you talking about? So. I mean, again, you know, I blame the editor because they should have wrapped this up because, like Tone said, this is supposed to be. We should be talking about this book the same way we're talking about Illmatic if it was done right. You know what I mean? We should be talking about this like, yo, I'm passing this on to every hip hop head I know. Yes. You know, this is gonna make the rounds. Like, you know, it's like, don't even give it back to me. Like, I got some books that I tell kids, don't even give this back. Just pass it on to somebody else. Like, keep it moving. That's what this book should have been. And it's the exact opposite to the point that I said, I don't know if you've seen a trailer for this new HBO movie with Michael B. Jordan, and they're like destroying all the books. This book would be the first book that I throw into the pile. I honestly was like, you know what? If I was stranded on a desert island, this would be the first book that starts the fire to keep us all alive. So that is my.
There it is.
I'm going to use mine. It's 0 mics, none.
I was just going to ask for your
best thing about this book is the cover. This is the best thing about this book. 0 mics, none.
All right, Tone, how many mics do you give this one?
Oh man, out of 5?
Yeah, out of 5.
I mean, you know, I'm gonna tell you, back in the day, whenever I saw 2.5 mics, I was like, damn, that shit must suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in that regard, I get a 2.6. But I give it I get an A for effort, man. You know, I'm gonna tell you, Kill kind of hard on. I'm hard on it. We all kind of universal part of think that the book's up, but you know, the vision of it I think was pretty good, man. I'm caught in the middle, man. I just don't know how to feel, man. Especially hearing you guys today, kind of confirming some of my initial thoughts anyway about the book. I'm gonna look at the shit totally different. I'm gonna put this back in my little library and put something over top of us whenever I look at this shit again. But and, you know, maybe some of the people who really love it will see this podcast and be like, damn, they've been kind of hard on the book, man. But real talk, I think it's honest conversation, man. It's just too much, and I hope somebody at some point do another book about albums for that year. Maybe Illmatic can kind of make it where real hip hop heads can appreciate it, man. I don't know.
Okay. Vince, what about you? Mic rating?
I'll be nice. I'll do 3. I'll do
Okay.
that.
Okay, fair. Joanna, what about you?
I'm going to give it 2, just 1 for the culture, because for the culture.
Oh, y'all, come on, man. Y'all being too nice. Y'all giving mics away for the one for the culture. We gonna
1 for the culture. Let's say 1 for the culture.
There
1
you
for
go.
the culture. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anybody read this. As a matter of fact, I was talking to somebody locked down who asked me to send it to him. I don't even know if I want to do that to them.
All time.
Yo, let me tell you something. You know a book is bad when you don't want to send to somebody who's locked up and don't know what shit else to do.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Wow. I give it 3 mics, and I give it 3 mics because I like the way the book is set up. So I like that there's not one person writing everything. I think that would have been an absolute disaster, more than it was. Kill, I think you would have given it like -10 mics if it was just one of these people writing the whole thing through.
You know what it is? If you got the right one person. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
That's right.
Out of these people with these long African names wrote it. Nope.
Oh man, no.
Yeah,
but that's why I said no disrespect. I said I'm shallow, so I'm just saying when I see these long names, and I got a long name. My name is Rahman, so I mean I'm not shitting on people. I'm just saying that I can see the name, and I'm like, I think I know where we're going. We're gonna be snapping.
Let me ask everybody a question.
Oh, Vince, let Porsche finish though.
All right, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just gonna say I like the way it was set up. I like that it was divided up into the track listing. It's familiar. I like that aspect of it. So when I pick it up as someone who has listened to Illmatic like over 10,000 times, I'm like, oh, I know how this is gonna go. Now the content is where it's kind of a miss, because I completely agree with Tone. Like, it's just extra. It's too much. It didn't need to be there. Kill, I agree with you. The editor should have just taken out and just hacked a lot of stuff out of there. But yeah, I mean, I give it a 3 mic on a good day. 2.5 solid, I would say. Yeah.
All right. Y'all being nice too, man. Joe giving 1 for the culture. We gonna be doing a review on CDs. They gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna give 1 for the plastic. I mean, just for the plastic alone, we gotta give it a mic for the plastic.
This is Kill being shallow right here, boys.
Yeah.
We gonna be giving mics away. I mean, look, the art was good. The artwork was good, but nah. What are you gonna say, Vince?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask everybody if you had never heard Illmatic and your first introduction to the album was this book, how would that?
I would not buy it.
Would you buy the album?
No.
Using this book as reference.
Like, I think that it's in that scenario, if someone has never heard the album Illmatic and just goes off of this book, it's 100% misleading, because this is a reach in all of its definitions, like as much as it could be, in my opinion. Like, this Battle of Algiers thing, you're never going to get that. This whole thing that went on about there was like an explanation about Nas's face on the background of New York, and they went on and on about how this is like him trapped in his mind and all of this stuff. Like, I think it would be wildly misleading, and I don't think that I think people would be scared of it. They would be like, look, I don't want to undertake this like album that's going to be an audio version of this. So yeah, I don't think it would be a good thing at all.
Or you have a situation where, because they're trying so hard, that you would think you finna buy a fucking Thriller. You know what I'm saying? So the expectation is so damn high, even though it's a dope album, you'd be like, this shit ain't good enough, because the book said it's Mozart masterpiece, Shakespeare theater, and it's too much. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I wouldn't have wanted to read this shit before listening to it, because my expectations would have made it unrealistic to almost enjoy it to a degree, because I do take the words to heart. I read every word in this damn book. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it'll just be too much, man. So yeah, you never want to read. You never want to read the book. It's like reading a book before watching a movie. well, we know the book is better than the movie, so it's gonna be more detailed. So you almost hurting yourself by doing that shit. You're like, this ain't like the book. But in this case, you know, it'd have been the same thing in a sense, because like, you know, expectation would have been too much for it anyway, because of the jargon and rhetoric that's all throughout the damn book. So it'll hurt.
Yeah, and for me, reading this book before hearing Illmatic, I'd probably be more interested in the Battle of Algiers than Illmatic. I would probably be like, yo, what's Illmatic? I want to fuck around with this Battle of Algiers, because as much as people talk about that during this book, man, that's what the real shit is. Like, fuck Illmatic. But nah, it wouldn't make me, it wouldn't, and that's why it's just like, and the funny thing is, I brought this used off of Amazon. It's funny because I'm reading it's got ecampus.com, so I'm sure some college is using this book as, you know, as like some reading stuff. And you're absolutely right. Like I just said, I commend Duke for going out and getting a hip hop head to teach the class versus getting, you know, it's so funny. It's one of my favorite 3000 lyrics where he says, everybody with dreads for the cause. You know what I mean? Because you have people who just think because you got locks that you educated, that you're down, that you know what you're talking about. Yo, DC is full of a whole bunch of hood niggas out here robbing people, you know, who got dread. So, and I'm just saying that because when I think of, you know, when I'm picturing what the, you know, some of these people look like, you know, and again, Shallow Hal, I'm thinking like an older woman with dreads, you know, down to her feet, and like is coming in and has all these PhDs, but just ain't no hip hop head. Just there's a big difference between somebody who watches sports and somebody who loves sports. You know what I mean? And you can get that. Like if I go over Tone's house and I'm like, Tone, yo, what channel is ESPN? And he don't know it. You know what that tells me right there? This nigga really don't love sports. You know what I mean? Because if you love sports, you know what channel. 850, 851 is ESPN too. Like, you know your channel. So it's like, that's the thing. Like, it just, you know, and I think there's like, I don't know how we find or define that line. Like I said, that's how I do in some ways. But it's kind of like there's a big difference between someone who's a hip hop head who like is into this culture. And there's one thing that somebody said that really showed me. This person said, oh God, it's on one. Basically, the person was just saying like that hip hop is dance, spoken word, and art. And I was just like, see,
no, it's not.
You ain't no hip hop head. Right. If you're talking about hip hop is art and dance and spoken word, like I've never in my life heard anybody explain hip hop as dance, art, and spoken word. Define hip hop like that. Doesn't hip hop is graph, is DJing, is breakdancing, and it's rap. Like that's what it is. Like, so you gonna tell me a spoken word? It was spoken word, art, dance, and music. And I'm like, so you're using music to say the DJ? Like, you don't know what the fuck you talking about anyway. You know,
water the culture down talking like that.
Right. You know, but that's what I mean. And it's it's why like Tone, when you in Vegas started y'all podcast, why I was saying we need more of this, because we need more people who are hip hop heads documenting our stuff. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's why I always appreciate you guys being on the podcast, because that's what essentially I'm trying to do. I'm almost up to 200 episodes of the podcast. You know, and I always tell people, you could be somebody who knows shit about hip hop, zero. And I swear to you, if you watch the first 100 episodes, you will have a bachelor's in hip hop. Yeah. Over the next 100, you will have a master's. And that's what I want this podcast to be. That so years from now, when people want to learn about hip hop, they can learn about what was dope album covers, or what was the hip hop videos, or what this freestyling mean, and see it from different perspectives and things like that. So yeah, as hip hop heads, we gotta start documenting our stuff, because if we don't, this is exactly what it's gonna look like going on to the next generation. And I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm being dead ass serious. Like, this is what it's gonna look like. This is what somebody's kid is gonna learn about Illmatic from this.
You're absolutely right.
You know what's funny? Because what's funny is people don't understand that rock and roll started like this, and the shit got sideswiped. You see what I'm saying? So it's like people thinking rock and roll is fucking Elvis, and it was done way before him. So again, like you said, at some point, who's gonna be the face of driving the culture? We gotta make sure that we are forever the face of our culture and let nobody ever take that from us. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, man, scary because if we fall asleep on it, the culture will be swiped.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Porsche, good book. I enjoyed. You don't know how hype I was for this discussion. Like, so
yeah, it was a good discussion.
Hey, I thank you for this.
No, I appreciate all of you guys for reading this. I know, I know how tough it was, and I apologize, and I really appreciate it.
No, it's all good. I already had
to apologize
for that. To me, that's the fun part of a book club. Is like, yo, I'm gonna be pushed out of my comfort zone to try something new. So no apologies at all, sis. Not at all. Like, that's what this is all about.
Thank you, Porsche.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Joe, give them all the information, where they get at you, everything.
JWOmedia.com. I'm on Twitter at Film Lover.
All right, Porsche, give them all the good stuff, miss.
Twitter and Instagram is at Cherchez La Porsche.
All right, Tone, give them everything, good brother.
Oh man, EnterTheDome.com. Also, Enter the Dome at Twitter. Tony Haynes Facebook, where all of my stuff is, and also YouTube B-Roll Network. That Time in Hip Hop with me and my man Blake. That's it.
All right, Vince, give them everything, good brother.
We'll make beatsforfood.com.
I will always take a plug. I will always take a plug, good brother. You already know what it is with me. Kill 889, Twitter, IG. We'll make beats for food. I will catch y'all next week, y'all.
Holla.